Hi everyone, it's Allison and I'm back with another video for the 31 Days of Tarot 2019 challenge from Ethany. There might be a bit of background noise, my kids listening to some music, my dogs are chewing on some bones, I gotta take them out after this, but hopefully that'll be okay. We'll see how the video turns out. This prompt is super interesting and sort of hard to wrap your mind around. It's day 14 and it's what decks could you read intuitively without any tarot knowledge or books? And that is really interesting because it's hard to go backwards from what you do know and think about how it was at the beginning. But I've got a couple of choices here that I do think are quite good for that, or that I would maybe recommend to beginners who are just starting out. And I think I would go with the message. Like, I remember when I started, I wasn't really starting with the book. I was just sort of looking and thinking about how the cards felt. And I don't know, now that I've read a bunch of stuff, I don't know what knowledge is from, what was super intuitive and what was from the books. I do know I had a way easier time with the minors rather than the majors, which I guess makes sense because it's sort of the mundane everyday stuff that you can maybe glean a bit more than something big and symbolic like the sun or the moon or something like that. But I've got a couple of decks here I thought I'd talk about and see if it's helpful. But it was a really interesting thought exercise. That was a really great question. Yeah, I'm not doing a video every day because some days I just don't have anything to say for, but I do really like this one. So, not a surprise, but the first deck that I chose, and I'm gonna, well, is there really an order? Not really. I'm saving what I think is the best for last. But I'm gonna go with a Rider-Waite Smith, and I thought just for mixing it up a little bit, I would choose the Albano Waite tarot. Just a recoloring of the Rider-Waite Smith. I love the backs of this one. It's not totally reversible, but I don't read reversals, so I care not. And I love the funky colorations of this one. They're really vibrant. They're just saturated and sort of 70s-ish. The cards are, these are probably my glossiest Rider, yeah, there we go. My glossiest Rider-Waites, but they do shuffle very nicely. And I just think they're a riot. I'm kind of more in the mood for them in the summertime. I've been on a real kick with my Centennial and Borderless Centennial, but they're great. And they're colored by the suit, right? So the wands has sort of the oranges and, but anyway, that's what the prompt, I'm sorry, my dog, Max, hush honey. The prompt was about being intuitive to read, and I think these are really intuitive to read. Shush. My dog is an emotional terrorist, and if he wants you to pet him, he will bully you until you do. It's ridiculous how focused. So I'm going to pat him with one hand and pick up cards with the other. I'm a hostage to this dog. I think if people trusted themselves more and weren't so worried about getting the right answer, these are really intuitive and just sort of thinking about what they mean to you. Now, I can say that now after, yes, I know, after spending some time looking at tarot, and that's a great coloration, eh? And, you know, looking at books and being so worried about getting it wrong. I mean, I am just as guilty of that as anybody else. And if I could go back and tell my younger tarot self something, it would be like, just trust and look at them. I mean, for me, my practice is so much about meditation and thinking and just for myself, my own. There's a whole video from last year about why I started tarot, and it was at a really difficult time in my life when I just needed comfort, and I found them comforting. So anyway, everybody knows the Rider-Waite Smith, but you'll see, I remember on Eclectic, this deck didn't get a very good review. People thought it was really tacky, but check it out. Don't just write it off, because the Albano Waite is great. I really like it a lot. It's a great little deck. So good old, you know, Pamela Coleman Smith. Give it a little shout out to PCS. What? She's amazing. Okay, the next deck I chose that I thought was pretty intuitive, because I'm able to use it, and it's, I think, in the Thoth system, which I don't really know anything about. It does have keywords. It's the Sun and Moon Tarot by Vanessa Decourt. secondhand, so this box is a little bit bashed up. But initially I just got it because it was such a good deal. It was $5 secondhand. And I just thought it was adorbs. Really cute. But this one, I mean, swiftness. The pictures are small, so it might be a bit hard to pick up. But she's like firing rainbow out of her hands while there are wands sort of flying as well. Prince of Cups. I think the court cards are the hardest thing to deal with if you're learning tarot, or they were for me anyway. So I don't know how intuitive court cards are ever. I don't know if I've ever come across some super intuitive court cards. But Nine of Wands. Just sort of look at that posture and that pose, and I think you could get strength out of it. I mean, even if the keywords weren't there. Look at this beautiful little fool. So much going on, right? The butterfly. I love the outfit. I love the tiger and the alligator or crocodile. I'm not sure which. There's just a lot to look at. I mean, well, this is the iconic one because it's on the box, but I mean, just love. You could look at that picture and get love in a heartbeat. The Five of Swords. That's another great example. You know, there's like more literal, I suppose, than the Rider-Waite Smith, really, in that way, where there's some question as to how that conflict went. So yeah, it's an adorable little deck. I have seen a couple people border it, and it's even more beautiful. It is smaller when you do that, but I may, again, I'm so not brave. 10 of Wands. See her carrying her burden there? I think that's pretty cool. Let's see, is there anything else I want to show you here? Oh, I know, hang on. Oh yeah, this is the one. Look at how adorable that 10 of Pentacles is. Just like an embrace and, you know, growth, and you have what you need, and that's lovely. So yeah, the sun and moon, super cute. I know it's a different system and some of the meanings are different, but really intuitive and fun to read with. And I like that deck a lot. But if I were going to recommend a deck to a beginner, well, I'd probably recommend the Rider-Waite Smith, just because it's such a classic and because not everything, many works talk about that. But I cannot tell you how amazing I have found the Anna Kay Tarot to be. This is the indie edition, the straight from the artist, and it's not much more expensive. I mean, again, depending on where you are, I'm Canadian, so everything costs a bomb here. But I think it ended up costing me maybe $12 or $15 Canadian more to get the artist edition straight from the artist. There's a lot of benefits to that I really love. One, I love the size of the cards, the squareness of the cards. The card stock is just great, thick and delicious, but still flexible. And I love that. I don't know if you can really tell, the lighting is a bit crap. Also, so is my holding the cards. But the borders are a different color, depending on the suit, and how they complement the cards so well. I love that. I like that much better than the black backs. The result is that the numberings on the cards are quite small. Can you see the Two of Swords up there at the very top? And then when you have, let me find one that's their strength. So it's little, right? I think it's probably a bit easier to see. I mean, I don't have any problem seeing it, but if vision was an issue for you, then probably the Llewellyn is better. But man, I love it. Oh, the other difference with the Llewellyn is the guidebook. All the information is the same, just that this is sort of a thinner, flimsier version. The Llewellyn book looks very nice. I don't have it, but nothing's different in it. So I would go the cards over the book 100% of the time. Now, I use this deck, I'll slip through some of the cards while I'm trying to talk, in a, oh God, I just want to talk about them all. Let's just talk about this one for a second. So, Four of Pentacles, right? Hiding and hoarding things. And so not just like keeping them to yourself, right? Then the Waite Smith, he's sitting on the casket and it's all, not the casket, the chest, and it's all, he's all hunched into himself. But here we see the ramifications of that, the people who have nothing that he's sort of hiding it from. There's just a whole story in there that you can build up based on that image. So I took this sort of on a whim to a little sort of tarot group I went to 5 or 6 times. It was just like a little 5 or 6 week course and exploring the tarot. And I had done a lot of the exercise there before, but I just, for the first time, I was like, maybe I'll talk to other people about this interest that I have. And I just grabbed this one on the way out. I was 100% sure I was going to use my Waite Smith because I was most comfortable, and I felt a bit self-conscious about my perceived lack of knowledge compared to other people. Every time. When is the video that I won't knock my things down? And now my computer is all wobbly. Sorry. And every time we did an exercise, everybody wanted to see this deck. Like whatever deck they had in front of them, they were like, oh, show me yours. Show me the Anna K tarot that you have. Isn't it beautiful? It offers so much intuitively. And it's just the greatest. Look at that High Priestess. And the other thing that really surprised me with this deck, and I hope this is going to sound awful, but I don't mean it to, but I was not drawn to the artwork. I was not drawn to the depictions of people. Well, I mean, oh gosh, she's lovely. But just for a deck that I thought, that was not like the Halloween deck, I was worried it might be a bit cutesy. And the people are not particularly attractive in the way that they're drawn. But more and more I realize that just really works for me. Like just, I mean, they're not meant to look super realistic, but they look like, people look. Not everybody's a Victoria's Secret supermodel. Lumina Tarot creators. I mean, that's a terrible thing to say because that was their aesthetic and that's what they did, and they did it beautifully. I do legitimately love a lot of that deck. A Ten of Wands is an interesting, again, reinterpretation, slightly different, but boy, can you get intuitive hits off of that. But like these Three of Cups, these ladies, they look like potatoes. Or I think last year I said something like Cabbage Patch Kids, just sort of on a rampage. Dogs. Now my 2 dogs are playing with a rope toy. But who cares? Look how happy they are to be together. Like, you get that Three of Cups. I also want to show you a couple examples. The court cards are a little more helpful. For me, again, I struggled really a lot with court cards when I started. The King of Swords playing chess. And he is mid-move, and he is going to take that knight. So and look at all the white pieces scattered around him. He is probably going to win that game. That's a great King of Swords. Versus the Knight of Pentacles. Like, just taking a moment to enjoy the fruits of his labor, the things around him. That's so Knight of Pentacles. And then I wanted to show you as well. So we've got some great majors here. I don't know if it's showing up, but there's actually like sort of a crone turning the Wheel of Fortune, like a ghostly crone. Can you see that? So cool. Tower, pretty traditional, but pretty gorgeous. But, okay, this is perfect. This is the one I wanted to talk about. The aces become girls. And the Ace of Pentacles is sort of freaky looking. Again, when I first saw this deck, I was like, bleh, not for me. But like, she's got her hands in the earth and she's working the earth. And I mean, that's what people do. I mean, people get dirty and it's not all just this sort of sheen of glory, and so helpful with those aces, which are sometimes just swords or a wand or a cup. I mean, this is a story that you can really sink your teeth into. Let me see if I can find another ace just while I'm on this tear. Oh, there we go. Ace of Wands. I mean, it's just great. It's so great and so intuitive. And if you've been on the fence about this deck and been like, yeah, just that artwork, I just don't know, the characters are so, well, we might as well, oh, am I going to be able to find her now? There's one character in particular that people have a real problem with, and I get it. Because I felt the same way. And all I can tell you is, it don't matter none to me. Oh, I better show you that. Sorry, I could do a 2-hour video on this deck alone. So just like, yeah, just turn me off if I'm a real pain in your butt. Okay, that one I want to talk about. Where's my lady? Oh, I think I missed her. So that one I want to talk about. Sorry, again, ill-prepared for what I'm doing. Okay, so Empress. People don't like this Empress card because she is not radiantly beautiful, but she is voluptuous, and she has giant boobs, and which in this case, great, and is surrounded by vines and flowers, and she's barefoot. With the trees, it's verdant. And again, it looks like she's got a mustache, kind of, like the way it's drawn. And I was like, oh, how will I ever get past it? And she's so valuable to have cards, people represented, like, in different ways. Could be more racially diverse. That would have been great. But now that doesn't bother me in the least. She's part of the deck, and I love her story. Let's just take a look at this Eight of Swords. I mean, how perfectly intuitive is that? You know, the confines of the mind holding you back from things that you are perfectly capable of. I mean, come on. I really also love this death card. And while I'm not in favor of sugarcoating death cards, as someone who found the tarot at a time when my mom was dying, and so seeing her live with cancer, and especially my stepfather, who died this very long, difficult death, the idea of death having the scythe and having be dark, but also having his hand out to you, that you would take his hand and go together. Sort of like, I mean, not to diminish what I was just saying, but it always struck me the way that J.K. Rowling wrote the Deathly Hallows story of the three brothers, that the last brother who had the cloak and death sort of went into the next world together. That's not exactly what it said, but they went as equals or something like that. I love that interpretation of death, and I think it's something we struggle with in Western nations, and we shouldn't. And I just want to give a shout out to, like, the lovers who have been together clearly for a long time. Like, while I love my sexy young lovers, what I want for myself is, in my love of my life, is I want him and I to be old together with flowers around us and looking as lovingly at each other as these two do. So I love that. Anna Kay, man, I can't believe it actually hasn't come into my talks before now, because again, man, this is so great, because all I want to do now is play with all my tarot decks all day long. Sorry, job. You know, just want to do this. So the Anna Kay, this is what the indie box looks like. But I mean, the Llewellyn is just as good. The same artwork, just as beautiful. Guidebook, such a great guidebook. So those are the ones I would recommend for, like, intuitive hits without tarot knowledge, especially my Anna Kay. So I've gone on way longer than I thought I would. I got to take my dogs out, so we'll talk to you again soon.